What is up? Welcome back to another edition of the PFF podcast. I'm Mike Renner, joined as always by Sam Monson, and it is Friday after the first NFL game. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football. We're going to talk about all of this weekend's action. We're going to get into some lines. We're going to get into some hot takes. But first, I want to talk to you guys about our favorite new fantasy football app called Draft. It is best ball leagues. These are leagues where you sign up for one draft at the beginning of the season. You draft, it's either a slow draft or a fast draft where you can draft over a few days or draft in person in real time. And you set your team, you get your lineup, and you don't have to edit it throughout the season. Your best players for every position get scored. It is great. I've done a handful of leagues right now. You can play as little as $3 leagues, or you can play up to hundreds of dollar leagues, win thousands of dollars. It's a lot of fun. It's a new way to play fantasy football. And if you're like me, if you're like any of us here at PFF, you cannot get enough of fantasy football. You can't get enough of football in general. So you do anything you can to play. So go to the Draft app in your app store, Android, Google Play, search Draft, and use the promo code PFF to get a free $3 entry into a best ball league. You guys won't regret it. We're in a handful. You can find us. You can find us on the app. Find our username on PFF_Mike. Add me. See if you can join a league with me. Go check it out. Like I said, Draft in the App Store, either Google Play or iTunes. All right, let's get into Thursday Night Football. It is September 8th, and Sam Monson is predicting that Tom Brady is officially in decline.
Wait, what year are we in? I was planning on just repurposing.
Oh, 2017?
I was planning on just repurposing that article, changing the dates, and throwing it back out there.
That was after the Chiefs. What was that? 5 years ago now? Was it back in 2000?
It was 2014.
Oh, 2014. Okay, so it was against the Chiefs though.
It was, yeah. Week 4 against the Chiefs was the year everybody was, or the week everybody was saying Brady was done. Critically, as you pointed out, when he went looking, I never actually said that he was done. I went nowhere in my Twitter history can you find that proof.
I went to Twitter advanced search. I searched Sam's username and the word Brady and looked at every single post he's ever made on Twitter to try to find one to retweet yesterday or to quote tweet something. Could not find him actually saying he was done or in decline or not a top 5 quarterback. So maybe he didn't say it, but he said it at some point.
Fake news.
He definitely said at some point. I'll say it, I was flabbergasted by the result yesterday. I think everyone was.
Oh, yeah.
We got killed on Twitter today because no one here at PFF picked the Chiefs, but it's like if you're picking 9-point dogs on the road, like maybe reassess your betting strategy if you're picking them straight up. So I really think, though, the game plan that the Chiefs had offensively was one of the most impressive I've ever seen against the Patriots defense. Basically everything that the Patriots defense wanted to do, they had an answer for. It was very impressive to watch.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier in that game that I really just like watching that Chiefs offense. It's so much fun, and especially when you've got guys like Tyreek Hill in there, it's ridiculous. It's a really entertaining offense. They do smart things. They set you up well. I'm just looking actually now at PickWatch to see how many people did pick the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And they've got 109 people listed, and I think there are 4 people that picked Kansas City in that game. And no, they are all. No, one of them is the road team. So three actual human beings picked the Chiefs, and one, quirk of the fact that they were traveling on the road.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about missing that whatsoever.
96% picked the New England Patriots. So I said last night, I thought they were a live underdog. I thought, they had a chance, but no way would you have predicted they would actually pull that out.
The crazy thing, Alex Smith yesterday, 178 yards on deep passes. He had 521 in all of 2016. So, almost like a third of his yards from a season ago on deep balls. They had a game plan for those Patriots 3-man rushes. You think of the Chiefs offense, you don't think of a lot of downfield, deep, long concepts that take a long time to get going. That's what they called yesterday because they knew the Patriots were going to come with a lot of 3-man rushes. That was their MO a season ago. They did it a lot yesterday, Thursday night, against the Chiefs, and it seemed like every time they did, they went to a 3-man rush and didn't get pressure on Alex Smith, they had a guy wide open down the field. The Tyreek Hill out and up was probably the turning point in the game. It was just a wild, no one expected out of Alex Smith.
But the really interesting thing about that is, So I spent like the first half basically mocking Alex Smith for being Alex Smith and not being able to pull the trigger on those deep throws. Because you saw it in the first half, there were 2 or 3 of those where he like half cocked. He wanted to go deep and talked himself out of it at the last
It's like,
moment.
wait, no, I'm Alex Smith. Okay,
yeah.
no. It's not going to work.
The thing that it reminded me of is, have you ever seen like those fail videos of a guy who's about to dive off a diving board
Yes.
and like decides as he's doing it, no, this is a bad idea, and like tries to stop, falls onto the diving board, falls over face first into the pool anyway? That's kind of what it reminded me of. He's like halfway through the throwing motion. It's like, no, check
Well, he
that.
literally had one where it came out of his hands halfway through.
He did that a few times, and then as soon as I started mocking him for it, like 2 deep passes, go for 150 yards or whatever. But if you look at the plays, it's the wide open bust to Tyreek Hill. It's a wide open Kareem Hunt. They were the kind of throws where I'm fine with saying he'll put those in the air. You know, Alex Smith's problem is not that he physically can't throw the ball deep in the air. It's that if he doesn't see it wide open, he can't. Like, he needs to know that this is a safe pass. It's going to be complete. There's no risk here. I need to put this ball in the air because it's a touchdown.
It is great, though, because those were both the Kareem Hunt wheel route and the Tyreek Hill out and up were placed perfectly. Like, if there was actually tight coverage, he still would have beaten it.
He can do it. But the interesting thing is, if you look at his average depth of target, which is like the Alex Smith stat, you know, he's always at the
7.
bottom of the league in that. So under 7 is usually where he's at. That's like the rock bottom. You know, that trails the entire league every single year. Even last night, it was at 8. So for comparison, Tom Brady's was at 15.9. So 0.1 yards under doubling Alex Smith's average depth of target. So even though he racked up, 150 yards, whatever it was, on those deep targets, he didn't actually put the ball in the air that much.
Yeah, Tom Brady had 10 passes attempted 20-plus yards downfield. That's an insane
ridiculous
amount for any offense.
For comparison's sake, 15.9 is ridiculous at the other end of the scale.
Yeah.
But 8 is still pretty low. You know, at the very best, it's middle of the pack now. He's gone from being the rock bottom of the league to being normal. But, like, even last night, I think I tweeted at one point last year he averaged 3.2 deep shots per game, and last night was 3. So he didn't throw the ball deep anymore. He just got 2 wide open shots that made it look fantastic.
Let's talk about Kareem Hunt, because he was the other story of the game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Was absolutely unbelievable on the ground. 5 broken tackles on 17 carries. And he had runs of like 25 and 15 called back and had 148 rushing yards still, which he was just very tough to bring down all day. And then obviously had the big play beating Cassius Marsh deep. We kind of, I don't want to say we called it, but we were big on him in the draft process. He was last season had the second most broken tackles in the country, had 76. Our fantasy analyst Scott Barrett literally told everyone that you have to draft him in your fantasy drafts. He is going to be, a top 5 back this year, and it's looking like he might be that sort of guy.
Yeah, he had a grade of 89.5 after fumbling, and fumbles in our system normally torpedo a grade because the single biggest statistic in terms of wins losses is always turnovers. So turnovers are extremely harshly graded in our system. So to fumble right out of the gate, you would think almost no matter what he does, this grade is not going to be good. But 89.5, fantastic grade, week 1. Came back and was the player of the game after that. That's like, for a rookie to come back after that kind of, disappointment, that kind of mistake in that first play. I didn't see who it was, by the way, but whoever actually forced that fumble was a fantastic play. In the middle of like wrapping him up,
who was
hand on the ball, pulled it straight out.
It was Jordan Richards, I think, who forced that fumble on him. Was really a really nice play. But I think you got to give credit to Andy Reid for not benching him after the fumble. It's easy to say, it's a rookie running back. But he came back. He proved that.
Can you imagine what Belichick would have done? The first
he
play?
He didn't have a fumble all of last season at Toledo. And I think he's a good example of why a lot of people want to look at pure raw stats in college, things like yards per carry, and project those to the NFL. I think yards per carry is a terrible way to evaluate because of the offensive lines that you see, just the huge variance in college. A lot of times, guys with high yards per carry averages in college are guys who will bounce out to the outside and run for, have these 80-yard runs, but aren't going to be consistent in the NFL because that just doesn't work. I think Kareem Hunt, you saw his vision on display multiple times yesterday, was fantastic at finding the right hole. he is the real deal. I'll just say it. I think he's going to be seamlessly replace what Jamal Charles had brought to the table the last few years in that offense.
Yeah, I did a college review yesterday, and it was Georgia Southern against Auburn, and Auburn kept knocking off these huge 70-yard runs simply because Georgia Southern they had the wrong number of people in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't have the men required to block it, so they just ran this play to the side that had one more guy. And it was a straight line run for the running back to get 80 yards down the sideline. It was helped by the fact that Georgia Southern's safety kept taking the most ridiculous angles to these plays. But the point is, those guys are going to rack up like hundreds of yards on the ground, and that is just not happening in the NFL. You're not going to get that look. It is not an option. But if you look at Kareem Hunt, he gained 902 yards of his 1,473 last year after contact. So he's doing the majority of his work last season after getting hit.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Pats offense just for a little bit. Was it a fluke that that Tom Brady was 16 of 36, that he was throwing so far down the field that nothing was open underneath? Was it a good game plan by the Chiefs, or was it kind of just? I mean, they still scored 27 points. Was it just kind of a blip in the radar, like no real big deal to you?
They did, and they could have had more. The concerning thing is if you look at what happened the last time they were without Julian Edelman, it looked a lot like that. Brady held the ball longer. They kind of changed the offense. They went away from that short, intermediate, horizontal stuff, and they started taking more shots down the field, and it just didn't work as well. And the single biggest number for Brady in this game to come out of is his average time per pass attempt was 2.94 seconds, which is Tyrod Taylor levels of holding the ball.
He's usually around 2.3.
Yeah, and he's usually. I mean, this is
for like a whole season.
Like that is basically as slow as you're going to get in the NFL over any kind of extended period of time. He's usually at the other end of the scale. He's usually as quick as the ball comes out. Now, part of that is because the Chiefs were running those three-man rushes, and he kind of had all day to pass most of the time, so it's skewed a little bit. But the point is, they weren't getting rid of the ball. And the other number was the 15.9 average depth of target. With Edelman in there, he's just picking up those 5-yard chunks, and Edelman's turning them into bigger gains. He's getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and I don't see why you would go away from that now, because Amendola was doing a perfect Edelman impression until Amendola went off inevitably injured. But they had the replacement. We've spent weeks now saying, well, what is this Edelman replacement going to look like? Are they capable of playing the same kind of offense? I mean, Amendola was doing exactly the same job yesterday, and could have done it perfectly fine if they'd run the regular Edelman offense. But for some reason they didn't. And, I don't know if this is just the Chiefs have a good defense always. They did a good job, and we'll see the real Patriots back next week, or whether, Edelman may end up being like the most important guy on that offense in terms of how it functions.
No, I'll add one more thing that worries me about the New England offense. Marcus Cannon yesterday, beaten like a drum by Justin Houston a handful of times, 2 sacks. 2016 was a stark outlier in his career in terms of pass protection. He was a nightmare in that regard from 2014, 2015. Gave up 6 sacks in 2015. That dropped to 3 last year. Was one of the highest graded right tackles in the NFL. But it's like, was that a fluke? Because the way he got beaten yesterday was a little concerning. You can't be giving up those extremely quick pressures that he was, the 2-second pressures where you just have no chance of completing a pass.
It was Justin Houston.
It was Justin Houston. So I'll give him a little bit of a pass on that. But if he isn't playing at that high level like he was a season ago, it's just gonna. The more pressure on Tom Brady, the more I worry about that offense because of just him being 40 years old at the quarterback position. So that's a little worrisome for them. Here, let me get into my hot take of the week, though. Hot takes coming back.
Hot takes are back. Football's back now. Hot takes are here.
Everyone wants to overreact to week 1. I still don't think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs.
Not make the playoffs. Eric Berry,
potential Achilles injury, potentially out for the season. If that's the case, such a big loss for that team. I still think that was more a fluke than sign of things to come for them.
Oh man, so you've naturally got the Chargers winning that division.
Oh yeah, of course.
You have the Chargers presumably winning the Super Bowl at this point.
We'll get
who
into
else
that
is
later.
coming out of the AFC?
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Well,
to say
so if the Chargers are winning
teams.
their division, who's keeping them out of a wild card spot? Is what I'm asking.
Who's keeping them out of a wild card spot? That's a good question, actually. Now that I think about it. The Raiders, 1.
Okay, I could buy that.
Maybe the Bengals. I looked at the Bengals schedule the other day. It's actually pretty easy.
Well, once you're at the point where you need to be the second wild card of your own division, like that's getting tough already.
Yeah,
even if somebody else just needs to be okay. And
I didn't really think this. That's why it's a hot take.
Yeah.
But on the record, Chiefs still don't make the playoffs.
The Raiders are saving you. Like once you bump them down to the third team in their own division, that's asking for help.
All right, let's actually get into previewing some of these games for the weekend. We're going to kick it off with the Jets and the Bills. And I'll just say right off the bat that my Jets previews aren't going to be terribly interesting this year because I will not be picking them a single time.
Ever.
You guys can rest assured, Jets fans.
You don't think they'll at least split the series with the Bills?
No.
Because I'm surprised. I looked at our picks now, and we're 100%. Everybody in PFF's picks are going for Buffalo, and I am surprised that nobody has picked the Jets. Because, the Jets have spent the entire offseason as the butt of the NFL joke, but Buffalo have blown the thing up as well. It's not. What have Buffalo got left?
So Buffalo, under the radar, really screwed up that offense. From what I saw this preseason, what they're doing. They're just not. They stopped playing to Tyrod Taylor's strengths. They're legitimately seems like they're trying to undermine.
They're clearly planning for life after Tyrod.
Yes, they have no intent of making him their starting quarterback for any year.
So even if they're playing him all season long, which to be honest would be kind of harsh to him because, like you say, they're going away from exactly what it is that makes him viable. Mm-hmm. They're basically going to set him up in an offense that's designed to make him fail. And then release him to the rest of the NFL at his lowest possible value.
Yeah.
But they're gonna suck.
They might. I still like their defense a little better though than the Jets. You just look at the Jets' offense though.
I think that the Bills are favorites, but I'm surprised nobody picked the Jets.
I'm not surprised. Like I said, I won't pick them in a single game all year, so. They're also on the road.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
There's really just not much to say about this matchup. If you're watching this and you're not a Jets or Bills fan, you're an addict, and I respect that. All right, on to the Jags, Texans, which I was surprised at how many people are all aboard the Texans at this one because when I look at the matchup on paper, it's very similar. You have two very good defenses, should be. And the Jags, they sign a lot of free agents. Who knows what their defense actually is going to be, but it should be a good defense. And you have two quarterbacks that, toss up there, and nothing else really going on for either offense. I get that it's at Houston, so they have the home field advantage, but it's like, it could go either way. It's probably going to be like a 10-7 game.
Yeah, but
decided by defensive touchdown.
So I think the home field is one thing. But I think the other thing is they're very similar types of teams in terms of how they're built, but the Texans just appear to be better everywhere. It's close, but at every single one of these spots, Jacksonville's quarterback.
I'll take Jacksonville's secondary.
Jacksonville's quarterback has been horrendous. Houston's has just been not bad enough to lose the starting job yet. So Jacksonville's defense looks like it should be good on paper. Houston's defense looks like it should be one of the best in the league on paper. So everywhere you look, the Texans just appear to be slightly better than the Jags. So overall, and plus they're at home, overall that should add up to being, comfortable victors.
A.J. Boye Bowl. I really think, though, he ends up making the difference. Jacksonville's secondary, it just should be good. It just should be very good.
But Tom Savage isn't going to put the ball in the air enough for it to matter. So
that's what I'm saying. This game will be very low scoring. I think.
Except Blake Bortles could easily go out there and go whoo and just throw 5 interceptions.
Blake Bortles last season 6-2 graded passes, the most in the NFL. That's the lowest grade we give to passes. That's a lot.
Savage probably doesn't have 6 in his career.
No, he doesn't. He hasn't played enough though. I really do think. I just think I'll trust Blake Bortles throwing a handful of deep balls to Allen Robinson. If they just every single play, you do a little play action, you just throw it deep.
So the upshot
that's probably better than anything else they got.
The upshot of this is that everybody else thinks that Houston are going to win, and you think the Jags are going to win.
I just think they have a better chance of getting a big play offensively. Is all I think.
Oh yeah.
Against
either way,
they have the advantage in terms of wide receiver over secondary. I think they have the Jags wide receivers versus the Texans secondary is a better matchup than the Texans wide receivers versus the Jags secondary.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, and I think that's the matchup that ends this one.
Bortles.
Although J.J. Watt could blow that up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So we shall see. I like the Jags. You like the Texans.
Yeah.
it'll get decided this Sunday.
All
right, on to the AFC North, where the Steelers travel to meet the Cleveland Browns in a game where you guys are gonna enjoy Sam's picks this week because he had a few, he towed the party line and then he just went out and
went rogue.
I think he accidentally typed in the Browns here, and then
I felt
so embarrassed about it that he had to stick with it.
I felt a lot better about this before Myles Garrett injured his ankle. But look, it's week one. Look, we just saw it last night. Every single year in week one, some crazy results happen, right? So why would you pick just the favorite in every single game? Because 2 or 3 of them are not going to happen. You're going to get shocked. So let's pick the shock. And this is one of my shock picks. And like I say, I felt a lot better about it before Garrett went down. But the Browns should be significantly better this year. Like, not just better than terrible. They should actually be okay. And it might not translate to being, a 500 team or anything like that. It's still slow steps, but they should be a tough out every single week. So if you're at the point where you're a tough out, Deshaun Kaiser is going to be a boom or bust type of quarterback early. So this does rely on him being the boom side of boom or bust week one and not, throwing something horrible. But he's perfectly capable of that kind of game. And like I say, week one, weird results happen. You could catch the Steelers cold and who knows. So it's definitely not, a confident pick. It's definitely a big upset I'm picking here, but I don't think it's insane.
I want to get into the Joe Hayden, Ross Cockrell. They traded away Ross Cockrell after they signed Joe Hayden, which seemed like a lateral move to me. I don't know. Are they actually a better defense now?
I think it's a better schematic fit. I think for what the Steelers do, Hayden is a better fit in that defense. Mm-hmm. So I get why you want to ship Cockrell out. I think Cockrell to the Giants is a phenomenal move. Like, he's a perfect fit for that system. And especially if you're only asking him to be like number 3, number 4, like that's ridiculous depth. But Hayden for the Steelers, I think, makes more sense from a schematic point of view. He does have a higher ceiling. I mean, he's only 28, and injuries have really been like his biggest problem. If you work on the basis that if he gets back to 100%, he can be a way better cornerback than Cockrell ever can. And they haven't paid a big amount of money to do it, so it kind of makes sense. But it's a big risk for a guy that's been very injured and has been very bad when he's been injured. So it's a gamble for the Steelers, but at least I can see the logic for it.
They are playing to win this year. Is what it looks like.
Yeah,
and I don't blame them. That offense should be Martavis Bryant back.
And Roethlisberger is clearly on his way out at some point.
Which is why I don't think the Browns really have a chance in this one, because of the Browns secondary is one of the worst 5 in the NFL.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
And what are you going to do? What are you going to do with Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant? It's just Steelers run away with this one. All right, on to the next game. Arizona Cardinals at the Detroit Lions. We were famous on this podcast for absolutely our undying love for Detroit and everything that how good they are, how underrated they've been the past couple of seasons. So Sam, why do they win this one?
Well, I'm trying to claw back some good favor with Lions fans. So myself and Gordon McGuinness have gone for the Detroit Lions. Everybody else is picking the Cardinals. This is more about my lack of love for the Cardinals than it is about my undying love for the Detroit Lions. As people know, not high on my list of teams that I think are great this year. But I don't think the Cardinals are very good either, and it's at Detroit. It's a significant journey for a team like Arizona. I don't know.
You're doing the distance.
I am.
Here.
I'm doing the distance thing. I'm big on the distance and the travel, especially week one. When you're getting yourself into things. I think the Lions should be fine against the Cardinals. That Cardinals team doesn't look that great. I don't think the defense is going to be as good as it's been in the past. So, and the Lions offense should be able to put up points.
I don't think the Lions offense should be able to put up points against them. I just disagree with that assessment. If Tyrann Mathieu is back healthy, he did not look like that a season ago. Was not graded out right around average in terms of our cornerback rankings. The season before that, I think he was either a highest or one of the highest graded cornerbacks in the NFL. When he's healthy, which he should be, he's a difference maker in the slot. That's where Golden Tate lines up. I think he can shut him down fairly easily. And this Cardinals team they went 7-8-1 a season ago, but they had a plus 56 point differential. They really threw away some games down the stretch. Now, some of that is Carson Palmer and just everything that comes with him being a risk taker down the field, and those risks all came back to haunt him in 2016, whereas they didn't really in 2015. But I still like this defense. I know that they lost Calais Campbell, but I still think they can get it done without needing a great pass rusher, just with all the things they do schematically with the blitzing. Now getting Hassan Reddick, who's a dynamite blitzer, who's just going to be a weapon in that defense. Who
hasn't been used, at least in the now maybe this is a
Pre-season.
Christian McCaffrey thing if they're just not showing it to you yet.
Don't tip your hand.
But they didn't blitz him at all, almost.
And like we've been saying, the Lions defense, I think David Johnson has a day against them because they don't have much in terms of run defense.
I don't like this. You're pointing out all of the glaring flaws in my picks. That's making me an awful lot less confident about it.
Well, when there's so many flaws, it's a little too easy to do. All right,
look, it's week 1. Something weird's going to happen.
All right, I picked the Cardinals. You picked the Lions. On to the Bucs, Dolphins, where they're not playing this week. They're playing in Week 11. That's unfortunate for them, 16 straight weeks with games. But we'll keep it moving from them. Sorry, guys. On to the Falcons at the Bears, where do the Bears, you said you picked them to be a surprise team in the NFC North.
And this was one where I was
do you regret that already?
No, this was one where I was thinking, am I surprised at everyone? No, I'm not really. I think the Bears will be better. I think they'll be a bit of a surprise team for people. One, I think it's probably not going to happen until Mike Glennon ends up on the bench and they're starting Trubisky. And two, there's a difference between improving and being able to challenge what should be the best team in the NFC, or at least one of the best teams in the NFC. So I don't think they're there yet.
I actually wrote about the Falcons earlier this week and the oddity of their schedule this season. So they play through Week 8. They don't have a single divisional game. They play every single divisional game over the last 9 weeks of the season. The last 9 weeks of the season, they play Saints twice, Panthers twice, Bucks twice, and they play the Vikings, Cowboys, and one more team who's eluding me at the moment.
And that division could be the best division
and the
in the NFL.
So, and so they have, down the stretch, they might struggle. They might start off hot. They might go. They have the Packers and the Pats on their schedule in the first 7-8 weeks of the season. They might start off, 6-1, 5-2, but having to play, and some of those teams, I think they play the Saints within 2 weeks of each other. So they play the Saints like week 14 and 16. They play the Bucks within 3 weeks of each other. They're just going to have a tough time down the stretch of maintaining it. They could limp into the playoffs, and just because of pure scheduling, they really kind of got screwed behind the 8 ball by the NFL this year.
Yeah, that looks like a horrible schedule. Like I say, that division could be the best in the league, having to face all of them in the back end of the schedule.
You think about the NFC South, legitimately the best quarterback division in the NFL, not a below-average quarterback in that division, and then you have every single secondary in that division should be improved from a season ago, outside of the Falcons, that is. So I think the Bucs take a step forward with Vernon Hargreaves in year 2, the Saints with Marshawn Lattimore and Delvin Breaux coming back, and then the Panthers with their 2 rookie corners now coming in their second year. Every pass defense should be better in that division. They're going to just have an uphill climb. Not this week, but the rest of the
Yeah, they're going to beat Chicago, but then things get hard.
All right, on to the Raiders and the Titans, which is my battle of the 2016 breakout teams. And I think that they're both getting some hype for 2017.
I think so,
they're both like getting that under the radar. Ooh, could they win the Super Bowl type of hype? Could they win the Super Bowl, these teams?
The Raiders are my they're my Buffalo Bills this year. They're my outside bet for the Super Bowl.
Sorry, Raiders fans, you're going 7-9.
We did our preview thing, and I wouldn't allow Steve pick the Patriots because it was too easy. So I went with the Raiders because I think last year, if you look at they were the team that was closest to challenging New England before Derek Carr went down, and obviously that's just going to end your season right there. And I think they'll do it again this year. I think they'll be the team that's closest to challenging them. I think the division is probably tougher this year, so it may not reflect in the number of wins they have over the year. But I think Tennessee are going to be a good team as well. So this is one of those tough Week 1 matchups where two legitimate, like Thursday night, where two legitimate teams are going head-to-head. A potential playoff preview somewhere down the line. And I think the Raiders are probably going to be the better team over the season, but I think Tennessee at home takes it Week 1.
The Raiders' defense genuinely worries me.
Yeah.
Especially in this one because of that D-line is just soft. Outside of Khalil Mack, they get taken off the line of scrimmage, and then you get to the linebackers, and they're not. No one's filling hard. No one's coming downhill
they will not,
making up for it.
They will not do a phenomenal job against the run, and the Titans are one team that will smash that.
Titans could go for 250 on the ground, and once they know they have that sort of ground advantage, they're not going to let up. They're going to keep giving it to DeMarco Murray. They're going to keep giving it to Derrick Henry. So
that's what they want to do anyway.
This one, I'm going to have to go with Titans. Home team. Raiders, the distance scouting. Raiders have to travel so far to get to Nashville. Oh, man, that's going to really impact them. So I really that's the matchup to me that I think decides this one. If they can somehow start stopping the run, if Khalil Mack just plays the game of his life against the run and just impacts both sides of the offense, yeah, maybe. But that's the only way I can see that.
I mean, that was a problem for them last year as well. Especially early, they really didn't have any kind of interior presence that was helping Khalil Mack out, and it looked like no matter what he did, it didn't matter because somebody else was just causing the problem.
Yeah, the Dan Williams thing is so weird. So he's cut now, I believe. How nose tackles, there's 1 year you're a stud who holds up to all double teams, and the next year you're you can't get in your stance because you're 30 pounds heavier, and all of a sudden you're just getting flown off the ball. So that's so many nose tackles I feel like that happens to. Just they fluctuate just so crazily.
Well, I think you've got to, there's bands of weight you've got to be in. You've either got to be at your playing weight, or you've got to be Grady Jarrett levels of over your playing weight where you're so heavy that you physically can't be moved off the line.
You have to be between 330 and 350.
Yeah.
But not 350 and 370.
No.
But then
400.
But then 400, you're
where you can just lean over.
You don't need to get into your stance. You just take a knee.
Yeah.
And they can't double team you. No, yeah, that's actually a really good take.
That's like your two long arms take.
Yeah. There's a distance in there that's terrible. But then once you get to 40-inch arms, it's
perfect.
You could just hold them out completely straight the whole time and hold off a pass rusher. Yeah, those are very corollary. All right, so I picked the Titans. You picked the
Titans.
All right, we're on board. On to the AFC North again, the Ravens and the Bengals. Ravens travel to Cincinnati, where we're at right now, and I've said many times, I don't think the Ravens they don't look like they have it this year.
Yeah,
I don't love the Bengals, but I guess I just said I picked them to make the playoffs earlier in the podcast, but I don't. But I said it's because they have an easy schedule. The Ravens just don't seem. Where are they going to beat you?
Well, now they'll
beat you with their run defense, but it's 2017.
This is true. Now they're my local home team, so I've got to homer up and go with the Bengals. The biggest concern, obviously, for Cincinnati is the offensive tackles, and can those guys hold up against pass rushers? The Ravens don't have fantastic pass rushers anymore. It's still all Terrell Suggs, and he looks like he's slowing down, at which point you might be able to get away with him. Or with him going up against those guys. Plus, they are very good at mitigating that offensive line with how quickly they get rid of the ball and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that Ravens defense will have a great effect on the Bengals offense, and they should be better on the other side of the ball. So, yeah, Cincinnati.
Yeah, Ravens last season, 29th in overall team pass rushing grade. That's not getting it done. I know they added a handful of guys in the draft, Tyus Bowser, Tim Williams, could improve that defense, but you're relying on rookie pass rushers year one who weren't even first rounders.
Yeah.
I just think they'll struggle to get after quarterbacks, and that's just not going to help that secondary. Yeah, I like the Bengals in this one just because I think they're a solid team up and down. There's no real huge weaknesses outside of the tackle position on that roster. So, yeah, we'll call it Cincinnati, home team.
Yep.
All right, on to the Eagles and the Redskins. The Eagles travel to Washington in a battle of the NFC East. Sam, break this one down for me.
So, Philadelphia are the team that a lot of us have been talking up.
Yes,
it seems like we do it every single year.
No, not me.
No, well, not you. The rest of us do it every single year. But this is the year.
Yeah.
This is the year because they fixed the things that were really wrong with the team. So they had no cornerbacks last year at all. None.
Mm-hmm.
Awful cornerbacks. They went out and traded for Ronald Darby. Ronald Darby, in that scheme, it should be a good corner. Good starting corner. Job one, fixed. They had no receivers.
Kind of fixed. They still have Jalen Mills starting.
On the way to being fixed. At least they've got one corner as opposed to no corners.
Okay.
Receivers. Maybe the worst receiving core in the NFL last year. Get Alshon Jeffrey. You get Torrey Smith, who at least should be a viable deep threat, if nothing else.
Hey, Torrey Smith is number two. I'm fine with. Torrey Smith is number one. no, we got issues.
And I don't even, the number one, number two thing, he's a specialist deep threat guy, essentially, which is all you need him to be.
Like Torrey Smith is a 150 target guy.
Yeah. So the receiving core should be better, be significantly better. And those are the two things that really torpedo that team. When you look at the depth on the front seven in particular, it's scary. It's insane. Guys like, Derek Barnett, they find like Stephen Means in preseason, who's just one of the studs of preseason, getting insane amounts of pressure. That front seven has more depth on the defensive line in particular than I think anybody else.
I think it's the best. They go 5 deep on D-line, better than any team in the NFL.
Yeah, and they should be getting after quarterbacks constantly all the way through. And the offensive line on paper is arguably the best in the league heading into the season. All 5 of those guys can be top-level starters. It relies a little bit on Jason Kelce getting back to, his better form, as opposed to he's been all over the map in terms of grading. But Lane Johnson is probably the best right tackle in the league when he's not being suspended. Jason Peters on the left side is still one of the better left tackles in the league. The 2 guards are pretty good. That should be a good line.
Should be. I want to talk more about that D-line, though, because, like we mentioned, I think they go 5 deep better than anyone. And I think the way they assembled it is a very PFF way of assembling a defensive line, in that they don't have sack specialists. They don't have guys who are going to speed rush to the edge. They have guys who are going to push the pocket. So they're going to be getting a ton of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Maybe not a ton of sacks, but that just helps out your back end more in terms of you're in a guy's face, the quarterback's face, he's going to make more bad decisions with the football. We just
30 points.
Again, 30 points in the passer rating. We've seen it again and again. And they guys like Vinny Curry, Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham they're not bending the edge. They're bull rushing. They're inside moves. They're consistently gaining pressure. Maybe not big sack numbers, but they are going to. That defense is just going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah. No, they are going to hurry quarterbacks and just make life uncomfortable for them more than anything else.
The Redskins are so. Let's go to the other side of the ball, though, because the Redskins are so weird to me because I don't. Like, they made the playoffs a couple years ago. They regressed a little bit a season ago, even though they added Josh Norman. I don't see how, again, that they've improved this offseason. I don't know where. They're one of those teams where did they get better? I don't really see it on paper, which is always worrisome to me.
Yeah, I don't think they have. And the strength of this team last year was the offense. It's, having a decent passing game. And at best, they're going to have like a lateral move. Their hope for this season is that essentially swapping one wide receiver core for another has ended up in a tie. It's as good as it was a year ago.
Yeah, they're hoping for a handful of positions. The D-line, the wide receiver core, they're just hoping they can be as good.
Yeah, as good as a year ago. And if they're not, they're in trouble because, that group last year was really good and really well balanced as well, which I think is probably more important. Mm-hmm. Pierre Garçon is the kind of possession-style receiver, Deshaun Jackson, the guy that can take the top off the defense, Jamison Crowder, the good inside guy. Now you're relying on Terrell Pryor. I mean, I don't know which one of those roles he fits into, whether you want to try and transform him into a deep threat because he's so big and has the long stride and can run past people in theory, but it's not really what he does at his best. And then Josh Doctson, who is just becoming a real injury worry. Yeah. But if you do get him, 100% healthy, his body control and ability to adjust to passes and that kind of thing could be fantastic. If for nothing else, and as a red zone threat where you just sling the ball in his general direction and let him do the work.
Now, I do like how the receiving corps sets up for what Kirk Cousins does best in the intermediate range. I think they can gain separation there. Big bodies, large catch radius out of both of Doctson and Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
But they already, like we said, they already had a good receiving corps. They already had a receiving corps that set up well for them.
That's a real worry that their game plan at the moment is to hope that they're as good as they were a year ago, which wasn't really good enough.
Yeah, I was thinking this one. Eagles front seven, too much to handle. Carson Wentz does anything against that Redskins secondary, and they should run away with this one. All right, on to the Colts and the Rams. Indianapolis travels long way again over to L.A. without Andrew Luck. They're starting.
Which is more important, the long way or the lack of Andrew Luck?
I don't know, man. You're the long way scout here.
Yeah, it is a long way.
How far would you have to travel for Andrew Luck to be more important than Andrew Luck? Like 3 times around the globe?
Yeah.
Are we talking?
Yeah, probably.
Like on a plane for 4
for like
days
a week
straight.
with no food and drink. I mean, that no Andrew Luck, no win, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's try to break down as many teams as we can that you'd pick the Colts without Andrew Luck. I'd pick them over the Jets.
I mean, it would be close.
On the road, who else would you pick them over on the road?
On the road, over a great distance. I don't know if I'd even pick them over the Jets.
Dude, okay. Well, you're getting a little crazy there.
No.
I'd pick them over the Jets, but
what? Like, there's not that much to like in that Colts roster.
I'd pick them over maybe the Bills too. Maybe. Yeah, there's really not much like on that Colts roster, though. The offensive line is a mess. It's so funny, though. It seemed this preseason they switched to this quick passing offense all of a sudden when Scott Tolzien comes in there, like the Matt Hasselbeck thing.
That's what they did.
Let's completely change up our offense that gets our quarterback killed all the time.
As soon as Andrew Luck goes out, you craft the offense that you need to be running with Andrew Luck to stop killing him. And it's just ridiculous. That's what they did the last time. That's what they should be running. And the weird thing is he looked good doing that. Like, they had to do it at times, when he was playing hurt and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Luck actually looks better in that sort of offense. Just run that.
What they should have done was fire Pagano over the offseason and hire Kyle Shanahan. That would have been the offense for Andrew Luck. But
he would
alas.
be amazing in that offense.
All I want to see in this one is Jared Goff has to play well. If he doesn't play well against this Colts secondary with Vontae Davis hampering injury, with just a bad secondary in general, there could be Goff more the same for him.
One PFF person picked the Colts this weekend. We need to go and find out from Neil what exactly he was smoking that leads him to suggest the Colts are going to win this game.
It's probably more he just doesn't keep up with.
You don't think he knows Andrew Luck is broken?
Most likely. All right, we got a little special thing for you. We're going to throw it to our analytics department and George Charuri and Eric Eager for a little
Lock of the week.
Lock of the week.
Against the spread.
That's what we're calling it.
Fancy numbers, all the kind of math stuff that I don't understand.
It's purely our math based on our data. We are now picking games against the spread, trying to make you boatloads of money, and me too, and Sam.
Everybody.
But everyone gets boatloads of money from
for
us
everybody.
Picking these games. So the lock of the week, we're going to throw it to them, and then maybe after that I give my own picks.
All right, thanks, guys. As Mike attempted to say there, I'm George Shahure, and I'm joined here by Eric Eager. We're excited to bring you some picks this week as a part of the work we've done with the PFF analytics team this summer. If you want more than what we give you here today, which will be one pick, you can head to profootballfocus.com. We've got an article that we wrote that has 5 picks, 3 against the spread and 2 over-unders. And if you like what you read there, you can get them all by getting yourself a PFF Elite subscription. It's a $200 value, but at this point, I think we've tacked on so many things. I think the amount of content that you get has doubled. It's a remarkable deal, so check that out, and you'll be able to get all of our picks every week. So before we get into the moneymaker this week, the lock that we've got, the sure certainty of an outcome that we are predicting, do you want to take everyone behind the curtain a little bit, Eric, and tell everyone kind of how we come up with these picks each week?
Right. So we have data that is different and far more substantial in many ways than a lot of the rest of the football industry. And over the last, few years for me and then for the analytics group in general for the last few months, we've been trying to take that data and see how it translates into, team performance at a very broad level and then at a specific level in some instances. And one of the outcomes of that was on the website this week with our PFF ELO ratings, which are a substantial feature in the model that we've come up with for the spread and the over/under picks. But then we also have other things like, for example, how to handle adjusting for opponent for grades in the passing game and in pass coverage and things like that, and how to deal with players that are, as we'll see in this game that we're going to talk about, players that are playing that we didn't expect to play, players that aren't playing that we were expecting to be a big part of a team. All of those kind of go in there. And then obviously George's favorite variable, grit, or as I like to call it, heart, right? Just a big H. That's also in the model. It's like E equals MC squared, line equals H cubed, right? Just the heart.
It's so important, and it's a real shame. I've been pushing for this for a while. Maybe at some point someone will listen to me and we'll start grading players on their grit. But so that's, we don't have that in the model yet. But of course, Eric and I, think about that when we are looking at these games, and I felt really good about the grit that this team that we're going to pick this week has. And that pick, I guess we'll just go ahead and get into it here, is the New York Giants visiting the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World this week. The Cowboys are 4-point favorites, and we have them covering 27-21 and coming away with the victory. Now, before I bless everyone with every nugget that you need to know about why this is a sure certainty, I think it's a probability of 1.05. Eric, is what we came up with.
Seems fair.
Yeah, it only seems right. You had a couple of reservations. There were a few things that you brought up when we were discussing this, and it's only right that we give people all the information. So if for some unknown reason this goes wrong, what do you see that being?
Yeah, and as a part of the PFF picks article every week, we will give a counterpoint to all of the picks that we are confident about, because there is uncertainty in everything. I think here we're, with Ezekiel Elliott coming back, I think there could be some overreaction in the market, because the Giants counter that with a run defense and a general defense that is quite strong, one of the best in the league a season ago, led by Damon Harrison, their nose tackle, who made a run who made a run stop on 16% of his run defense grades, or run defense plays a season ago, and that was 3 or 4% more than any other defensive tackle in the NFL. So aside from having a huge heart, I think both mass and figuratively, he might be enough to neutralize Ezekiel Elliott. Last season, Elliott averaged 3.6 yards a carry in his 2 games against the Giants, and that was clearly down from where he was in the entirety of his season. So that can be a big deal, as we know, running the football. George, how important is that?
I mean, it's just so important. Like everyone says, you got to start with a good running game. Build from the run game. You mentioned Damon Harrison, 16% run stop percentage. I think that was actually higher than the cumulative Dallas Cowboys interior last year. But that aside, I don't foresee the run game being the deciding factor here. When we look at our model and we look at the things that are most predictive of winning a game, the passing game is what really shines through, and you really don't have to look a lot further than the 2 quarterbacks in this one. Prescott, top 10 graded quarterback last year. Eli Manning ranked 26th in the league and has declined each of the past 2 seasons. And then you mentioned Elliott playing, and yeah, he hasn't had a ton of success against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys do have a very good run defense, but that actually will help the passing game just having him there. Prescott had the best completion percentage on play-action passes last year in the entire league at 75.7%. So I think Elliott being there keeps that viable, will give Prescott a little more comfort back there. And, Manning is potentially without his go-to guy in Odell Beckham. Last season, throwing deep or outside the numbers, Manning had a below 70 passer rating, so he's not pushing the ball downfield. And Beckham is the guy that gains those yards after the catch. He had 29 missed tackles last year, which was way ahead of everyone else. So that could be a really big factor. And honestly, I wasn't super high on the Cowboys going into the season, but I really do like them in this game, and that's why we have them covering the 4-point spread.
Yeah, I think the Beckham loss is big. You look back at some of the things that made the Giants 11-5 a season ago, and they're the same grit. Thing
besides grit
and heart.
Yes.
And heart. We have them in our ELO ratings, for example, a little low. I would even argue a little low, but in the 20s. And basically because they had a good defense, but defenses are things that regress generally year to year, more so than prowess offensively, especially in the passing game. And Eli Manning had, I think, decent traditional statistics a year ago, but in terms of how well he graded the number of turnover-worthy plays, as our friend Steve has deemed them, those are things that, he had substantial luck a season ago. You think back to the Baltimore game where Manning throws a 3-yard slant and Beckham houses it for the game-winning touchdown. Just things like that are prime regression candidates. Their offensive line struggled protecting a season ago, and they don't really have a solid running game to kind of keep the defense on their toes or on their heels or whatever. So, those are all things that I think make the Giants a little weaker than we anticipate. And while I think that the Cowboys are also a regression candidate, I think this week, having Zeke, being at home, all of those things, wanting to have revenge against the Giants, who beat them twice a season ago, all of those things are reasons why I think this pick, in addition to the mathematics, is a solid one, just from a football perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point that you make, because during the off season, it's easy to put on the rose-colored glasses, right? And I think a lot of people have done that with Eli Manning, just kind of expecting him to all of a sudden, become a better quarterback at kind of this advanced stage in his career. But I mean, if you just watched, even that last game against the Cowboys, I mean, there were so many plays that you kind of, the play was over and you're like, I can't believe he made that decision. So that is something that, our model takes into account, because we grade every single play of every game. And, so that's why we're going with this one here. If you like that, if you didn't like that, you might want to disagree with some more, go check out the column that we've got on profootballfocus.com. It'll have 5 picks for you, a couple of over-unders that we're pretty excited about, probably that you're not expecting to. And if you like that, you should definitely subscribe to PFF Elite. You get a whole bunch more than just the picks. These are like the icing on the cake, though. They're going to bring a lot of joy this season. So go check it out. We'll be with you next week to give you another stone cold, absolute certainty, a lock.
105%.
105%. I mean, you have to give 110%. So, the pick should at least be 105% certain. But that's all we've got today. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
What you've been waiting for is finally here. Since February 6th, the season has finally kicked back off. Football is back, and with football being back, that means DraftKings is also back. 1 week fantasy football, and to celebrate, DraftKings is hosting a $100,000 contest this Sunday that is totally free to enter. That's right. No money on your end. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you could win $1 billion. DraftKings, there are many ways to play. Choose between public contests with cash prizes or private contests between you and your group of friends. DraftKings has beginners, casual, pro stuff. You can do whatever you want there. So get to DraftKings right now. DraftKings.com. Use the promo code PFF to play in a DraftKings free contest with hundreds of thousands of dollars in total prizes this Sunday. And if you get the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. Promo code PFF, your shot to win $1 billion this Sunday. It's free. No reason not to do it. Go check it out, guys. I got to be honest, Cowboys -4, not one of my picks of the week.
Yeah, but you don't have fancy math behind yours.
I do not have fancy math. I just have pure gut feeling.
Hot takeness.
And that's why I'm going to give you 3 picks that are my locks of the week. I already kind of touched on one. Rams -3.5.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I'd buy points on that. I'd take that up to like 9. I don't know how they lose this game. I mean, Jared Goff playing terribly would be how they lose that game, but I don't see that happening. Bengals -3. We already touched on that. And then we'll get into this one in a little bit. The Chargers,
obviously,
just straight up. I'm just taking them to win. I got plus 150 on that. That's a lock of the week. They're getting 3 points themselves, so love that one on the road against the Broncos. All right. You got any thoughts on any of those picks?
Well, obviously you're going with the Chargers because you are riding that bandwagon in the ground this season. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I think make money with me, guys.
I'm with you on the Rams.
That's insane.
If
you guys followed my picks last year, I guarantee I do better. because it's going to be difficult to do worse. I'll just say that. All right, on to the Carolina Panthers, who travel the farthest of anyone. Farthest of anyone this week. They travel across to San Francisco to play the 49ers. I still don't think that matters.
No. So
it's the Carolina Panthers.
The big hope for this was what we mentioned earlier about keeping your powder dry, not tipping your hand. And I desperately hope that they are not planning on just using Christian McCaffrey as a conventional running back with no fancy trickery or, alignment or just,
it'll be fancy.
Just using a good receiving back. It would just be, he would be good at it, but it would be such a waste. Like, what's the point in drafting him when you already had Jonathan Stewart? It's not, it would suck. But if they've actually got this, special McCaffrey playbook that has been talked about where, it has him lining up all over the place, that offense could be so much fun to watch this year because, McCaffrey is this weapon X in the NFL. He's a guy that you can't cover him with a linebacker. Cannot do it. Look last night, all the running back on linebacker mismatches. So between Kareem Hunt against Cassius Marsh, he wasn't even a linebacker. The guy's a defensive end, essentially. Mm-hmm. Complete mismatch. Rex Burkhead, they were 0-2 targeting him, but he was against Derek Johnson once, split out in the end zone. He was then running down the sideline with Dee Ford, who, again, is like an outside linebacker pass rusher.
Huge mismatch.
If you get that on Christian McCaffrey, forget about it. It's a touchdown. So if they've got a system that's basically designed to craft those mismatches, like McCaffrey should be running wide open in the secondary all day long. And I think those are the plays that he's there for. It's not to turn Cam Newton into this Tom Brady, Drew Brees style of high percentage passer. It's to give Cam Newton some more wide open deep shots.
No, you're not running angle routes with him again and again. You're running actual full downfield routes.
Because he's always going to be a low percentage, low accuracy kind of quarterback. Yeah. But the other side of that is he's not being helped out by the receivers. Kelvin Benjamin can fix some passes, but he's never going to be open because he's going to have a guy draped over him the whole time. So you're asking Cam Newton to fit the ball into a much narrower window to hit him than you would be if he was a receiver that breaks open by 3 yards of separation. Mm-hmm. McCaffrey is going to give you, 5 yards of wide open window to hit him. So I think that's what he's there for. And if as long as they've been, that's in the plan the whole time, and the preseason was just, we're not showing this yet. Unleash it against San Francisco, and we're going to see something fun.
Yeah, McCaffrey only 4 snaps this preseason lined up outside of the backfield.
Yeah.
We want to see that doubled just this week alone.
It should be, equal. Equal snaps as a receiver some way and in the backfield, and just literally make the defense wrong no matter what they do.
How silly is it, though, that they have a separate playbook that McCaffrey has?
The McCaffrey playbook.
There's no way he has just his own playbook that it's like only I know what I'm doing.
And they just go to the huddle. McCaffrey 1 on 1.
And it's just him. Everyone else is like, what do I do?
Nothing. Doesn't matter. You just run downfield in a straight line. Forget it.
That's they're calling plays on the playground now, I guess. But 49ers, do they have any chance in this game? I think they'll be improved this year, just at least offensively, just purely because of Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. But I think they're a bit similar to the Browns in that they're not gonna become good this year. They're not gonna threaten for a winning record or anything, but they'll be a tough out every single week. And this again, week 1, long way. It could be a close game. I think the defense will be dramatically improved, especially, Reuben Foster looks like an absolute stud.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the few guys, actually, that could legitimately have a shot at covering Christian McCaffrey one-on-one as a linebacker.
That's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
I want to see that. There's not many of them in
the
league that you would even give a prayer to, but Foster's one I think that's got a legitimate shot at it. I'd still say McCaffrey's the favorite in that, but if your defense is going to require the linebacker going out to cover McCaffrey when he splits out, Foster's about as good as you're going to get at trying to attempt that. Mm-hmm. So I think that defense should be kind of fun, given the front 7 guys and Foster in particular. But the Panthers should just be better.
Yeah, the 49ers, I can see them being improved, but at the end of the day, you can't really fake a secondary.
Yeah.
And Rashard Robinson, a 4th rounder a season ago, Akella Witherspoon, a 3rd rounder this year. There's guys in there that just you don't expect them to be great on the back end. Like, they could be improved on the back end, but they were so bad last year that I just don't think their secondary is good enough.
This becomes an interesting matchup because the Panthers don't have great wide receivers. So the weakest area of that San Francisco defense is going up against probably the weakest area of the Carolina offense. So it might not be as big a problem this week as it is, in other weeks.
We shall see. On to the Seahawks traveling to Green Bay, where the Green Bay is slightly favored, but a lot of the PFF analysts seem to pick the Packers.
Yeah.
Someone didn't, though.
Someone didn't. Everybody except me picked Green Bay. And this is one of those ones where you look. So when you look at the picks, it's interesting because they don't necessarily reflect, how close everybody thinks it is.
No,
if everybody thinks it's 55-45 and they all come down on the 55 side, it looks like a whitewash. But everybody thinks it's a close game. I suspect this is the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because I think this game is going to be close. It's Green Bay, Seattle. It's always close. It's probably going to come down to a play or two. And I think that Seattle will probably sneak it out. I think everybody else probably suspects that Green Bay sneaked the win. But, I mean, this feels like a really close game to me, and only one person in me has gone with the Seahawks.
This is one where I honestly can see Sheldon Richardson, that trade, actually being the difference in this game because of how weak the Packers' guards are. One player could honestly make the difference for the Seahawks in terms of winning and losing because of just how important it is to get pressure on them, how little they got pressure on Aaron Rodgers last year when the Seahawks lost.
Good point, actually. Green Bay's guards, Michael Bennett and Sheldon Richardson. Yes. That is as tough a combination
because the tackles shut down their ends a season ago. Bakhtiari and Balaga's hampering injury coming to this game may not even play. That'll be a matchup to watch. I still do think, though, Packers offensively, they get the job. They at least attack that corner opposite Richard Sherman and have some success offensively. And then the Seahawks, that O-line, they're starting Reese Odiambo at left tackle here, Jermaine Ifedi at right tackle.
It can't be worse than it was a year ago.
No.
So what does it matter?
So that's what you say now. But it's like, this is the Seahawks offensive line.
Yeah.
It could get worse. It's still there's when you're when these guys couldn't beat out George Fant, and
how much worse is there to get?
Just I don't know, we'll see. But
at what point do you just put out a sandbag and say, just run? If you can make it around this sandbag, you win.
They need to run the single wing or triple option offense. I don't know. They need to change up something.
George Fant had that athleticism thing going for him, didn't he? Where he's like, this is a former basketball player, therefore he's going to become Antonio Gates on the offensive line. It didn't necessarily reflect that he's a better player than the guy behind him, just that he had some form of mythical upside.
My favorite story about George Fant, this wasn't actually about George Fant. I may have told this already on the podcast, but when we're at the Combine, they're interviewing John Schneider, and they asked him about Fant or whatever, and he said, we put him out there at left tackle and just said, good luck. And I was like, yeah, that's what it's saying.
It really did.
He even knew that he kind of screwed up on that one. But, yeah, I don't see that their offensive line is going to be better, and at that point.
No, but I don't see it's going to be worse either, at which point I don't really care. I mean, it's going to be
Russell
a problem,
Wilson did tear it up this preseason. I will give him props to that. He, despite that O-line,
and they're
was
getting
fantastic throwing the ball down the field.
They're getting better at protecting him. Given that pressure, his average time to throw is speeding up every single year. It's quicker still this preseason. They've always been pretty good in terms of incorporating in the running game to mitigate some of that with read option looks and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're getting better at leaving Wilson out there to be killed. But look, I just don't see the line being any worse than it was a year ago. At which point they're still going to be good.
We'll see. Well, that's to be determined.
Oh, I hope it isn't. That would be terrible.
On to the Giants travel to Dallas to play the Cowboys. This was our lock of the week. George Chirura and Eric Eager called this the lock of the week. They're minus. Cowboys are giving 4 points. I do like the Cowboys in this one. I'm not calling it my lock of the week, but I do still like them.
So there were 2 games last year where Dak Prescott looked horrendous. He basically looked really good all year except for 2 games where he was terrible. One of them was against the Eagles, which was basically Brandon Graham destroying Doug Free for the entire game, leaving Dak Prescott boned. And the other one was the Giants.
See how you really feel, Sam.
The other one was the Giants, who it wasn't one guy. It wasn't the Brandon Graham treatment again. They got, some decent pressure on him, but it wasn't, an overwhelming amount of pressure that Prescott just couldn't possibly deal with. He just had a really bad game against a really good defense. Janoris Jenkins absolutely shut down Des Bryant. Allowed, I think, 1 catch for 7 yards, and the 1 catch he allowed, he forced a fumble at the end of it. So, as conclusive a shutdown job as you're going to see from a number one corner. This defense for the Giants may even be better this year than it was last year.
Ooh.
And
yeah, I mean, it could be.
I mean, it'd be if they can. The Cowboys need Dak Prescott to play well in this game. Otherwise, they're going to have problems, even with Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, so Zeke Elliott is playing. He will be playing even if the suspension is upheld.
I'm not quite sure why that is the case, by the way. Like, if he's...
Roger Goodell said it was so.
I know, yeah.
So it's so.
He's playing week 1, but he's suspended. Right?
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, he's playing week 1. Last year, week 1, they played the Giants as well, and Zeke had his by far worst game of the season, 20 carries, 51 yards. I do think the Giants' defensive line can shut down that running attack. But here's the thing. Dak Prescott, as good as he played, was still a rookie last year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you still project a guy. There's been so few guys who have peaked as rookies. You think he improves upon that. I think that the worrisome thing for me is the fact that the Cowboys' secondary just got decimated this offseason.
That's a problem. Although...
And I still pick the Cowboys because it would worry me against any other quarterback.
Although Odell Beckham
besides.
is 50-50. He may not play at all. And even if he plays, 50-50 is not going to be 100% Odell
It's not going to be Odell.
But over two games, the Giants have shut down both Zeke Elliott and Dak Prescott, which means if they can do one of those, if they can do one of those this week, they're in pretty good shape. If they can shut them both down, the Cowboys can't score. And then the other side of the ball, Eli Manning is the big concern. I've been holding back from the Eli Manning is done. Well, kind of holding back. I haven't written the article that, puts the tombstone above his grave, but I've basically been saying all off-season that he's probably done because he's old and playing like crap.
You really need to be stronger in your takes, Sam.
I really should just write the article.
I was going to say,
it's already out there.
You didn't put a Tom Brady not a top 5. You didn't put a tweet out there calling him not a top 5 QB. You haven't.
Well, I didn't feel like I
put anything out there about Eli Manning being god awful. Put it out there, Sam.
Yeah,
let the people know.
should just write the article. It's already. I've been saying it all off season. I might as well just
set it in
put
stone
it officially out there
so that Eli Manning's career can completely
take off and go to a third Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Now, at the end of the day, this one really is more of a toss-up to me. I'm picking Cowboys because they're at home.
I got the Giants. I just think their defense has done too good a job.
Hopefully the Cowboys win by 5, so we can all party with the lock of the week.
Win the money.
All right, last game of the week, my favorite game. I'll be waiting all week for this one. I've been waiting all off-season for this one, let's be honest. The Chargers travel to Denver. The late game on Monday night, I'm going to be staying up. I'm going to be partying afterwards when the Chargers blow them out in spectacular fashion because they're on a collision course with some NFC team for the Super Bowl because they're the Los Angeles Chargers, and they're one of the most talented rosters in football right now.
This is rest stop number 1 on the Mike Renner's Chargers.
Get ready for this every week of the season, me picking the Chargers. If the Chargers, do they play the Jets this year? I don't even know. Yeah, they must. They were both last place in their division last year. So once that week comes around, I'm just going to pop some champagne on the podcast and we'll get a little nuts. But
it's perfect, the happy hour.
Yeah, but no, I've picked the Broncos as being a team in decline. I don't. Yeah. Another team where, like I mentioned, the Redskins. How do they get better? You can't really point to a place. Brock
Osweiler.
Okay, yeah, maybe, but you can't really point to a place that got better. The Chargers got better in so many regards. Added a number 1 receiver in Keenan Allen. Added a number 1 corner in Jason Verrett. They have an offensive line that is healthy at the moment, ish.
Yeah.
More healthy than they've ever been, though, in the past 5 years. Man, if they don't win this one, though, you'll hear me crying next week on the pod.
Yeah, that would be a real blow to the bandwagon. All right.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I agree. I think Denver is the more important side of that. They haven't got better. I think that defense will be worse this year because they haven't really added talent to it. And between losing DeMarcus Ware and Aqib Talib, I just don't think he'll have the same kind of season. Plus, I think
TJ Ward too.
I think he can replace that. But Shane Ray, I think, is banged up. They're suddenly depleted and they don't have the depth they did a couple of years ago.
They have not reloaded well.
Yes,
we'll say.
Chargers should just be better. Scary thing is, right? Brock Osweiler is probably going to end up starting games for them this year. Like, I don't think they'll go to him because Simeon sucks, but I think at some point Simeon's going to get hurt, and Osweiler's going to be off the bench before Paxton Lynch is.
Yeah, I mean, I would take him off the bench for Paxton Lynch from what we've seen from both. Even though Osweiler's been god awful, still the better of the two, I'd say.
Oh, that's not
which is a scary proposition. Let's talk about Phillip Rivers and how he dominated this preseason, though, and if he actually has time, what he could do. 11 of 12, didn't play a lot of snaps, but 11 of 12, 141 yards, 2 TDs, passer rating of 155.2.
Did you see?
Is he going to win the MVP this year?
Did you see the ride that Phillip Rivers is being dragged around in between his home in San Diego and LA? He's got this modified SUV, which is like a palace inside, and it's just basically it's a small. It's like, and it's not unlike this podcast nook that we're sitting in at the moment, right? Except instead of being bare walls and some sound deadening material, what he has is leather everywhere, a giant TV in front of him, and basically a lazy boy to recline in. So for an hour and a half each day, on either way, Phillip Rivers is sitting in his lazy boy watching film on his giant TV as somebody chauffeurs him to and from the facility. I don't even care if it makes a difference or not. That's just a badass way to be living.
What a commute. He's still living in San Diego because of his family and whatnot. Admirable, but hour and a half each way, man. I don't know what else to say.
I like it.
It's insanity.
Did we miss New Orleans and Minnesota in this?
Yeah, we did.
We did? Well, let's go do that. Who are you picking?
I picked the Minnesota Vikings. I believe they're at home.
They are, yeah. I've picked New Orleans. This is the Adrian Peterson revenge game. This is where Adrian Peterson has one of those freaky games that only Adrian Peterson has, where everything says, as a running back, you cannot be successful in this particular scenario. And Peterson racks off 200 yards against his old team and shows he's still legit.
I don't want to write that off because Adrian Peterson is a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Still is. But, man, he's so old at this point. In the last 2 years, he did not look. Just the dynamic playmaking ability was
He also had nowhere to run, though. I mean, that line was just a mess.
It's a double-edged sword. It's a twofold. There's multiple reasons for everything. But, yes, I don't think that I just don't think he has the 200 yards left in him. I think he can go for maybe 120.
Yeah.
He could have a nice game.
But the thing is, if he goes for 120 and Drew Brees is Drew Brees, that's suddenly a lot of points that the Vikings have to match.
Yeah, it really is. But it's the New Orleans Saints secondary again, though. As much as it's like the Chargers offensive line. It's like the Giants linebackers. They'll never be good for some reason. I don't care what they do. Marshawn Lattimore, I'm so sorry. But you're just cursed going there. It's another positional unit that you can't be
On
good.
the other hand,
the last 3 seasons in our coverage grades, they've ranked 31st, 32nd, and 31st.
Yeah, they're going to be bad again. But on the other hand, the Vikings probably still don't have anyone that can block Cameron Jordan. They should get some pass rush. The Vikings receivers are interesting, but not dominant. You know what I mean? They're
interesting.
It's a weird group. They're all good, but none of them would scare you.
No, they're solid.
Yeah,
you'll say. You don't need to upgrade anywhere, but
none of them are going to take over a game. You know, Stephon Diggs, I guess, is capable of doing that, but still, if you have a guy that is capable of matching up with Stephon Diggs, he's probably going to take him away.
I really want to see if Dalvin Cook
yes.
can kind of overcome. So like you mentioned, Peterson didn't have much room to run there in Minnesota. There's not going to be a lot, even though they added, Pat Elflein, Mike Remmers, Riley Reif.
That's a big thing, how that line is going to come together.
It's still not like going to be people moving. They're still not going to be opening up gaping holes for you. But I'm not sure yet Dalvin Cook needs it. I think it could be
a situation
where
they should have at least gone away from that ridiculous man blocking system that always just I don't know how it works, but it actually does statistically. If you look at it as a system across the NFL, it generates a lot of yardage. But
you need
when you're bad at
it. I was gonna say.
But when you're bad at it, there's just a wall of bodies in front of the running back every play. So the guy gets the handoff, runs up to the line of scrimmage.
It looks, as a fan, it looks so demoralizing. You're like, did you even try?
Yeah, you're like, what are you trying?
They look like there's no rhyme or reason because everyone just piles into.
That's exactly what it looks
middle.
like. It's like the design of the play is to just create a pile at the line of scrimmage and hope the running back sees some daylight somewhere.
Yeah, the Vikings. rushing offense was not terribly creative last year on top of being poorly blocked.
Yeah, but so in addition to changing almost all of the personnel on the offensive line, they're going to be running more zone stuff that should at least look a little more like designed, you know what I mean, as opposed to just create a pile on three. So that'll be interesting because if nothing else, there should be some more holes for Cook to find, because of the moving pieces. It's more of a dynamic blocking scheme as opposed to just let's try and overpower the guys and go nowhere.
I do still think, though, that the Vikings defense in this one can at least kind of slow down New Orleans. Like you don't really like stop New Orleans ever. You don't hold them to like 10 points, but like 17, I could see.
Yeah,
fairly easily. Because
the secondary is going to be their problem because Xavier Rhodes is good. Outside of Xavier Rhodes, they haven't been able to find a number 2 and number 3.
Underrated thing also, Drew Brees. He's not young anymore. 38, and he's had shoulder issues in the past. Has kind of been declining in terms of grade wise for us. Not Eli Manning type decline, but just been slowing down.
He's gone from elite to very good.
Yeah. And then they lost Brandon Cooks over the course of the offseason. Didn't really replace him. I mean, Michael. Okay. All right.
The deep threat. All right, he's not like Brandon Cooks, but he's the deep threat in that offense. He's the Devery Henderson, who his entire job for his entire career in New Orleans was just to run deep as fast as you can. And it resulted in quite a lot of touchdowns from Drew Brees.
Okay.
Ginn has been running with the ones when they've been running 2 wide receiver sets. His job there is to be the deep threat.
Run off safety. Yeah. Maybe. But, I mean, it'll still be good offense. I'm just saying they didn't get better in terms of the weapons on the outside. So that's all I got to say.
Also, Can you think of a more one-dimensional and flawed matchup than Ted Ginn versus the corner
Terrence Newman?
No, the other one.
Trey Waynes?
Yeah.
Oh, they just sprint.
All either one of those two guys can do is run a straight line as fast as humanly possible.
Oh, that's
just
perfect.
Go every single play.
If they don't have Trey Waynes following Ted Ginn around the field,
that would be amazing.
That's
like the
Mike Zimmer has no clue what he's doing.
The best worst matchup to watch in this week is Ted Ginn going up against Trey Waynes.
We'll highlight that next week on the pod. We'll declare a winner.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us. We've previewed and reviewed all 16 games this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to go to profootballfocus.com/elite or profootballfocus.com/edge and check out our new products. Signature Stats are back in the Elite package. We have the grades and a bunch of good fantasy tools for you and the draft guide in the Edge package. We think you guys will like it. I use them on a daily basis to get all my football knowledge because it's tough to watch every game. I try to watch every game, but it's tough to even do that, even as a football analyst. So you need a little help to lean on. Make sure to go check those out. We'll be back next week with a little something special for you guys. We kind of hinted at it here, but we'll be debuting something new next Thursday. So make sure to tune in. We think you guys will enjoy it. Have a good one.